Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. And following Saturday's 2-0 defeat to Aston Villa last night, Graham Potter was sacked as Chelsea manager. Club statement coming out about 8 o'clock Sunday evening, confirming that he had been dismissed. Bruno Salter, one of his assistants, will be taking charge temporarily until a new manager is appointed. I think the overriding feeling amongst the fan base is a sense of relief that this is now done, this tenure's over. I think with the greatest intentions, everyone wanted this to work out, but from the off, it just never really seemed like the right fit. Looked out of his depth, to be expected, not managed at this level, and just got the big decisions wrong, kept getting things wrong, didn't conduct himself like a Chelsea manager, and ultimately, the job was just too big for him and it was too soon for him in his career. But from his perspective, you don't say no to an opportunity like that. But ultimately, 4 wins in 19 Premier League games, in our last 19 league games, just not good enough. Simple as that. Doesn't matter who you are. You can't stay in a job when you've got that sort of a record. And it didn't look like improving at all. And that was the main thing for me, is that there were no signs of any improvement. So therefore, he had to go. I mean, Lewis, before we move on to kind of obviously replacements and who may well come in and how long Salter might be in charge for. For yourself, I guess, like everyone when he first came in, you're a little bit skeptical about it, but you back it. You want him to do well. You want the manager to do well. But ultimately, I think this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, it is what it is. Graham Potter, thanks for some of the memories, I guess. Some of the memories. But it is what it is. It just didn't work out. I don't feel too bitter towards him. Now it's done. He just wasn't cut out for the job. And you know what? It is what it is. We move. But yeah, better late than never. Better late than never. At least now we can feel a bit more optimistic going into the next few games. I can feel a bit more optimistic about our short-term future, even though we're still not going to make top 4. We're still probably not going to win the Champions League, even though we do make a habit of doing it after we sack managers and all of that. It's just good to see Bowley and the rest of the board act, because, like I was saying it in my fan cam, we're going round in circles with Potter. We're just trying to back him. He'd make a mistake. We'd continue to back him. We'd go to more games, watch more mistakes, and it'll just go round and round in circles. Something had to be done to change it. It was a definition of insanity. And Bowley recognized that. When Stanley, Joe Shields, Lawrence Stewart, they all recognized it, and fair play to them, because they could have tried to fall on their sword and give him even more opportunities, but he's had more than enough at this point. More than enough. So I'm fine with it. I'm not annoyed at Potter too much. It's now done. I don't need to feel that way towards him anymore, but it had to be done. Had to be done.
Yeah, and that had to be done. And I think, obviously the owners have come in and they've made it clear that they want someone to be here for the long term. And I think that quote unquote project is still intact. But it's also okay to realize that, the guy that you brought in that you thought was going to be the guy, he wasn't up to it, and it's fine to get rid of him. And I think it's for me personally, I think it's good to see that they're prepared to give managers as much time as possible to try and make things work out. At the first sign of things going wrong, they're not going to get rid of him. They could have got rid of him a long time ago because the results have been so poor for ages. I think, from my perspective, that bodes well in terms of the first sign of things going wrong. I don't think they will look to get rid of the manager. They're prepared to give managers time. And I don't think this changes too much long term. I don't think this changes the vision or anything. All that's going to change is the man that's in charge to try and lead that vision. I mean, Lewis, have you got any concerns over the owners? Any concerns over the plan? Do you think removing Potter kind of changes that vision and changes that quote unquote project that they envisaged for him to carry out?
No, because the main project was just to build a very young squad that could dominate England for years. I still think that remains intact. They need to find a manager that suits the players that they've brought in, but that's why they're not rushing this process either. And I don't want them to either, because rushing was kind of the problem that we got into in the first place. At least we pulled ourselves out of that situation. So, yeah, I don't think it impacts too much in terms of the process or the project, because it was initially meant to be Tuchel that was behind it. Then it was Potter. Now it's another manager. It's clear that a manager isn't going to define what the project is. He's just going to be a part of it. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think there can be any complaints about it. In terms of obviously we've got Bruno Salter in charge for Liverpool. And you touched on there, mate. You know, it's important that we take our time, that don't rush into it. I mean, obviously when Tuchel was removed, Potter was pretty much announced within a couple of days afterwards. That had been clearly lined up. It doesn't look like there's going to be as quick an appointment this time round. It is important that they get this one right. Having got the first one wrong, it's crucial that this appointment's right and they take their time with it. But mate, for you, is it essential that we have someone in place for the first leg against Real Madrid in the Bernabeu in a week or so's time? Or do you think, actually, do you know what? Just take the time and get the right guy?
We beating Madrid anyway. This is my thing. It's like, if the guy isn't there yet, then whatever. Bring Bruno Salto there, whatever. A little thing for the experience, I guess. Other than that, I'm not fussed. Like, it would be nice if we had a Nagelsmann or if we had a Pochettino set up and ready, but if not, oh well. All that means is if we get piped by Madrid, then we have a reason. We ain't even got a manager in the dugout. It is what it is. I'm not fussed. I'd like us to have a manager ready for Madrid. If we don't, oh well. It would have been worse if we took Potter there. Because why would he still be in the job at that point?
Yeah, no, for sure. I hear that. I think, like, you know, from a few things that I've read, you know, Bowley thinks that the club can win the Champions League. So, you know, I think we can, of course. Whether we are going to is totally different. But at the same time, thinking like, you know, yes, ideally it'd be good to have someone in. And you thought, you know, these guys are smart people. They're not stupid. Like, they wouldn't have sacked Potter without making any sort of headway into appointing someone new. So maybe there will be someone in place for Real Madrid. I think it's clear that Salt will be here for Liverpool on Tuesday, and he'd probably most likely be here for Wolves on the weekend, you would expect. But you don't really know. In terms of managers being linked with the job and who you'd like to see come in, obviously the one that's kind of favourite, I suppose, at the moment, Julian Nagelsmann, who's just been sacked by Bayern Munich. Others on the list include kind of the likes of Pochettino, Luis Enrique, De Zerbi at Brighton has appeared as well. Who would you like to see come in?
I'm not too fussed, really. Nagelsmann or Pochettino are the two that really stick out to me, but Amorim would be good. Spalletti would be good. You could say De Zerbi would be good as well. I think people just want to stay away from that because of the Brighton connection and everything with Potter. But yeah, I'm not too fussed, mainly because other than Poch and Nagelsmann, I don't really know too much about the others, so I can't say too much about them just yet. I know Nagelsmann would play a system that's very similar to Tuchel's, or could play between a 4 at the back and a 3 at the back. I know Pochettino plays a high pressing system. I think both of them would do well with this squad, or would build a good squad too. And yeah, other than that, I'm not too sure about the others. I know Amorim's doing a good job with Sporting. Sporting. Yeah. Spalletti's the Napoli manager, and they're the best team in the world right now, so I'd take either of them. But yeah, I ain't too fussy because I believe in Vivell. Like, this is one of those where I can just take my fan goggles off and be like, I don't have to be the guy who puts a name in the hat. Anything Vivell's touched has worked magic. So if you pick a manager because you're here and you weren't here when Potter was signed, that's all I need.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think, you know, that, and I think that's another good thing the owners have done is that, you know, they accept that they don't know an awful lot about football at this point in time, and they've put that group of people together, the best in class, the guys that know football inside out, and they're making the decisions and then relaying their findings and their thoughts back to the owners, and they're working in tandem together, which I think is a huge plus, and it's good delegation as well on behalf of the owners. So, you know, now we haven't got the owners necessarily choosing the manager. We've got the likes of Vivell, Lawrence Stewart, as you say, Win Stanley involved in that selection process, which means that we probably shouldn't be making the mistake that we made with Graham Potter, because I think, you know, Bowley really, took that upon himself to appoint him. We didn't really have any other structure in place. So, you know, we can't make the same mistakes again in getting this next appointment wrong. I mean, in terms of Nagelsmann, you hear people saying that the fact that he's only 35, does his age worry you? Or because for me, I don't really care how old he is, as long as he's good enough for the job. That's all that matters to me. But do you think players would find that dynamic difficult to respect someone that's not that much older than them?
I don't know, because he's won a league with Bayern already, so he's
Yeah.
got the trophies to match. I don't know. Like, these players' egos need to be put into check anyway, so I couldn't care less. Like, you got players coming in that have failed with about 4 managers now. 3, 4 managers. And it's like, what? You're not going to listen to this one because he's a young one. If they don't like it, they can leave. Like, we still need that clear out anyway. So the age factor don't make a difference to me at all. Like, bring Nagelsmann in. Good pressing system, all of that from what I've seen, and just I don't care what the players think. Most of them are crap anyway, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you touched on as well. I mean, Nagelsmann would be my preferred choice as well. Like you, I also like what Ruben Amorim's doing at Sporting. He could be another one to look out for potentially. You touched on Pochettino. Obviously, we saw the work they did at Tottenham. Obviously, didn't win anything there, but he built a good squad. He did some good stuff there. He is a good coach. Obviously, didn't have the best stint at PSG. Was probably one of the worst managers in their history, if we're being honest. Missed out on the league title to Lille. Did win the league title, but not many PSG fans liked him. Just the fact that he's so strongly affiliated with Spurs and clearly still has a strong affiliation with the club, and B, that he's not really much of a winner. Would those two things not put you off at all?
Not really, because I get they've made that argument for the likes of Poch. And they said he's not a winner and all of that. It's Tottenham tax. They're losers. You don't go there and win. Jose went there. It's the only club he's not won a trophy at. Conte's gone there. The only club he's not won a trophy at. Poch took him to a Champions League final. A club of Tottenham's stature and mentality and culture should not be near a Champions League final. He took him there. I don't think he's a loser. He's gone and won Ligue 1 with Paris. Like, I know there might be some question marks about him and his mentality and all of that, but I think he's a good manager that can build a strong team. Whether they can have the final push to win the league title, we'll have to wait and see on that. But I do think he can build a good squad.
Yeah, no, I think he has shown he can build a good squad, but I think he's not a particularly favoured choice amongst large majorities of the fan base. But I think we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I think it's clear Nagelsmann is the favourite due to the Red Bull links with obviously Vivell. I think initial contact may well have taken place, but there's still a long way to go in these negotiations. I think there'd have to be some sort of compensation paid to Bayern Munich as well on that front. Just briefly, we had the tantalising thought of Potter versus Tuchel in the Champions League semi-finals, but if we throw it ahead slightly, I even think if Nagelsmann took over, the thought of Nagelsmann against Tuchel in a Champions League semi-final was actually perhaps better than Tuchel versus Potter. I mean, what would your thoughts potentially be on that? I know it's a bit of a what if still, but I think that makes a better story than Potter versus Tuchel for me.
What, if Tuchel returned or something?
Yeah, Tuchel versus Nagelsmann. If Nagelsmann ended up at Chelsea and because they basically just swapped jobs.
I mean, if UEFA wants to run it, I'm fine with that. Like, it would be nice to have referees on our side against a Spanish team other than the other way around. I wouldn't be against it, but it would be very interesting to see, but we'd still get pammed. Anyway, we're going to get pammed. Bayern's got a better team, they got a better manager. So it's what it is. I'll just take us being in the semi-finals.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, you certainly would, given everything that's gone on. I mean, just in terms of kind of the future and stuff, obviously we touched on the fact that, we desperately need a squad clear out. Part of my slight concern is that when a new manager comes in, everyone kind of gets a new chance. They assess everyone, and players that we feel need to move on and need to be part of the clear out might suddenly be fancied by a new manager. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this squad clear out will still happen regardless of the manager, or do you, because as I said, a manager likes to assess everyone that's there before taking any decision on who stays or goes. For me, I almost feel that maybe the squad clear out needs to happen perhaps before the manager comes in. I know that probably isn't going to happen, but do you think a new manager coming in affects getting rid of the players we need to get rid of?
Yes and no, because I want to give players a new chance and everything, but I do think there's also going to be players that will likely be leaving depending on the contract situation. I think anyone with a year or two left on their contract, you could potentially see leave. So I'd keep that in mind over the new manager because it's going to be about financials overall.
Yeah. And in terms of us, we spent a lot of money, 600 odd million. I know not all in one go, but committed to spending that much money over 2 windows. A lot of new faces came in January. You would think that they were signed for Graham Potter. I suspect that whilst he would have probably given the sign off on most of them, a lot of them would have been signings that would suit any manager potentially. I mean, do you worry that some of the players, obviously the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Badia Schill, etc., are fine, but do you worry that for some of the players, maybe the likes of Mudryk or Madueke, etc., that if a new manager comes in, maybe someone that doesn't particularly play with traditional wingers as such, that there could be a bit of a problem for them going forward?
Not really, because they're long-term projects. So, like, they'll still be able to be molded by Nagelsmann or whoever the new manager is. So, I don't think so. I think everyone who was signed under Bowley, except for Oba, maybe Koulibaly, I think they'll all be fine. And that's only because of age.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think they will be, but there's always a kind of a concern in the back of your mind that you sign a load of players and then a new manager comes in and perhaps maybe doesn't fancy some of them. But I guess that's just football and that's kind of the way it goes. But I would like to think with the profile and the quality that we've signed that pretty much any manager would want to work with the kind of the squad of players that we have got at our disposal. But talking of a couple of players we have got, I don't know if you saw it, you might have done, but I mean, briefly, what are your thoughts on the fact that Aubameyang and Zakaria liked an Instagram post announcing the sacking of Graham Potter? Now, just to clarify, it may well not be them running their social media accounts. Maybe it isn't them. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
At the most, it's a bit petty. But I've spent the last 6 months saying, why isn't Oba in the squad? So I don't blame Oba. Zakaria, I could kind of understand. He fell out of a lot of players. You deep how no one has said farewell to Potter.
Nothing, yeah.
I thought the Conte one was bad, but even Conte got something on.
Yeah, there's nothing at all. I mean, I'm not seeing anything. I don't know, like if there's any sort of rules around that or not. I don't really know. But yeah, I mean, I'm not on it all the time, but I haven't come across any sort of farewell messages at all from anyone. So I mean, what you hear, is obviously different to what goes on. But by all accounts, it was the players liked him. It was there was a good atmosphere around the training pitch. But I guess unless you're there, you never really know kind of the situation and what was going on. I mean, just on Aubameyang, do you think a new manager comes in, gives him an opportunity, or realistically he's finished anyway, given his age and given the fact it's a short-term contract, he's out of favour and that's kind of it, really. I suppose a new manager coming in now doesn't really make too much difference for him.
I don't know, because it depends on a lot of variables. Apparently the boards have issues with Oba, because they're the ones that have been telling Potter not to use him. So we'll have to see. There's a lot to speculate with because we don't know why Oba's been out of the squad for so long. We don't know if it's an issue off the pitch. We don't know if it's a problem with the manager or the board, or if the player just doesn't want to. We don't know. If we see Oba start, then I guess it was just a Potter problem. But yeah, I don't know. We have to see.
I mean, just obviously on Bruno Solto, he's in charge for Liverpool tomorrow. We don't know how many games he's going to be in charge for. It's obviously part of Potter's coaching staff. How much in the short term do you realistically expect to change? Because, we know that really it's the coaches that take most of the training sessions anyway. The managers don't necessarily always take the sessions. Obviously, I don't know if Potter's hands-on and takes all the sessions, but, Solto would have done a large part of the coaching and taking the training sessions. How much do we think's actually going to change in the short term whilst he's in charge? Because for me, I don't really think it changes an awful lot. I think it's going to have very much the same ideas and the same methodology as what Potter had. So, I mean, what difference do you think it will make?
Maybe you get a little new manager bounce, but I mean, we had that for the best part of 2 to 3 games. So I don't even know what to expect, especially with the run of games that we have too. Maybe you could get a little 2-2. Like we have Liverpool and then Wolves coming up before the Madrid game. Could get 2 out of 2. Liverpool have a terrible away record. If we score first, they'll just cower into their shells. but we have to score first for that. So, don't know. Wolves should get 3 points. I feel a little bit more optimistic with that one. Madrid, everything past that, whatever. But maybe you could have a little new manager bounce for 2 games. Who knows? We might draw at the Bernabeu.
Right, you never know. You never know. We could even go there and win. Who knows? But I mean, obviously, throwing it forward to Liverpool tomorrow night, Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. kickoff. First game, obviously, without Graham Potter. Do you obviously we've been to a lot of games this season. The atmosphere has been quite toxic. It turned pretty toxic at the end of the last game against Villa. What do you expect the atmosphere to be like around Stamford Bridge tomorrow evening, like, pre-game, etc. Now that the fact that Potter's gone, do you think there'll be a difference in the feeling around the place?
Yeah, like the atmosphere might be popping a little bit, but it all depends on the players too. All it takes is a crap 20 minutes for that atmosphere to just plummet. If they start off well, they get an early goal, that bridge is going to be rocking. If it's a poor start, nah. I don't know. But there's the opportunity for something good.
There is. I mean, how important is it as well that, obviously a lot of fans have been saying, it's all Graham Potter's fault. It's all this, it's all that, it's all his fault. Well, he's gone now. So that means that surely, according to them, that we should now suddenly start playing really good football. I mean, it obviously doesn't work like that. But how much, have we got to see the players now step up? Because we've seen now under, several managers that they've not really been up to it. I mean, how important is it for them and how much pressure is on them to actually turn up tomorrow night?
There's been pressure for how long? This is the thing.
Yeah.
So there's been pressure all season, to be honest. So I don't know if it gets any stronger. I think with these players, they just have to prove that it was all Potter and it wasn't them. Because if the players still play like crap, it was the players too. And I've been saying this both. Like as much as I've turned more on Potter over the last few months, and I do agree that Potter was a bigger issue than the players, I've never wanted to use that to take the attention away from how poor a lot of these players have been. So I don't know. We have to see. I think you might see the new signings look a little bit better. Will that get the better out of some of the older signings? I don't know. But it is very unpredictable with this one. Because we weren't good before Potter. We weren't good under Potter. Will we be good after Potter?
Well, I mean, it's literally, 2 days since the last game. I can't see really. How many training sessions is that? A couple at best. I don't really see how. I personally don't see how too much changes. But yeah, you might get a lift, someone new to impress, or potential new manager who will come in to impress. You want to make a decent impression. So maybe they'll feel a bit of a sense of relief, maybe a slight sense of freedom, and perhaps perform slightly better than what we have been seeing. In terms of Liverpool, then obviously they're coming. They've just been hammered 4-1 by Man City. They're not having a good season. Obviously, we're having a worse season, but they're not in good form. They're definitely there for the taking. Problem is, though, we've only won 4 of our last 19 Premier League games, so you don't feel confident about
games.
Yeah, 4 out of our last 19.
Whatever.
Mate, slim pickings, mate, at the moment for us. So, yeah.
4 out of 19,
Yeah, 4 out of 19.
Settings.
Yeah, mate, it's terrible. I mean, I saw that this morning. I was like, nah, surely not. 4 out of 19. That's mad.
That's dead. That is so dead.
It's criminal. It is criminal that. But, Liverpool come into town. We know that they play a high line. We know that they're not good defensively. They let in a lot of goals. What are you expecting from the game tomorrow? Nothing.
I've wanted 40 points for 4 months and my club ain't got me there. I want nothing. I want a win. I want to see a win. I want to see a convincing 90-minute performance. But I have asked that all season. I haven't had that since Milan. So I don't expect to get what I ask for. But I just like a win. Little 3 points. We can finally break the 40-point barrier after God knows how long. But that's all I really want because I don't know what else you could ask for. Like, are we just going to turn things around and then just batter them? Like, if it was Wolves or something, or if we were playing a team in the bottom 5 or the bottom 7, okay, cool. I want to see a dominant performance. I'd have a bit more belief you could do it. Because we're playing a Liverpool side that is just so hard to predict. I don't know, man. I don't know. It could go either way. It could go either way.
I mean, in terms of personnel, I mean, Salter in the brief press conference today, didn't last very long at all, said team news is exactly the same as it was for the last game. And there probably isn't going to be that many changes. So I expect the system will remain the same. What personnel changes would you make from the last game? Obviously, I think it's clear that Reece needs to go and play at right wing back. Badiashile should probably come back in. But in terms of the front line and things like that, I think for me personally, I think with the way that Liverpool play in a high line, Mudryk needs to play again and maybe deploy him through the middle for that pace, and maybe he can exploit that high line. I mean, what changes would you be looking to make?
Just the defence.
Yeah.
Just the defence. Let's have centre-backs at centre-back now. I don't know what Chalobah has done to Potter for him to just be completely dropped out of the side since the World Cup when he's been one of our best defenders. But you put him back, or put Badiashile back on the left. Because I got Cucurella playing the Leicester game because of how good he was against Dortmund. That was where it ends. That's where it ends. Badiashile's the left centre-back. He stays at left centre-back. Koulibaly stays in the middle just because Thiago Silva's unfit. He could drop out as well after that performance, but he's there by default. And then you put Chalobah in. Reece James, right wing back. Chilwell, left wing back. Everything else in the front. I'd take Havertz out for Oba, but it's not going to happen. So it is what it is. And yeah, I'd keep everything else the same. But that back line has to change because that was the biggest problem. Like, usually I can rely on our defence.
Well, we had two fullbacks at playing as centre-backs, basically.
Cucurella, I kind of understood.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too annoyed at him for that. It didn't work out, but I kind of get it.
Didn't understand
James,
the Reece
right
one.
centre-back, though, that's completely clueless. I don't understand that. Like, if he was injured, then why are you even playing him? You shouldn't be at right centre-back.
I mean, he looked half a yard. He looked half a yard off the pace, I felt, watching the game on Saturday.
Then why is he playing?
Yeah, he didn't look his usual self to me. I know obviously he's limited to what he can do from that right centre back role. Look, we saw Tuchel deploy him there at times, and part of my thinking was maybe was he just trying him out at right centre back in this game because when we go to the Bernabeu in a couple games' time, last season Tuchel deployed him on the right side of a 3 to contain Vinicius. Maybe the part of the thinking could have been that we're going to do that again, and because he's not played there since last season in the Bernabeu, just needed a bit of practice or something. I don't know. I can't really find any other reasons as to why he would have been put there. But I mean, we look at Liverpool, and there are goals in that team. The likes of Mo Salah, dangerous, Darwin Núñez, Gakpo, etc. Do you worry about that front line of theirs?
A little bit, but only a little bit. I feel like they're starting to kick on a bit more now. It's just our defence. If our defence is solid, I'm not worried. But if I see the same back three as the last game, it's long. Because I can't predict them. Again, they can be very shaky with their finishing sometimes. But then when they're switched on, they'll batter United 7-0. So,
yeah, it's weird. I mean, as you touched on earlier, their away form's terrible, particularly at the bigger sides. Obviously got lost at the Etihad. I think they've lost at the Emirates. They lost at Old Trafford. They're not particularly good on the road. But then we've only beaten one side in the top 10. So it's going to be tricky for us. It is going to be tricky, but we have to hope that kind of a different situation with Potter no longer here might get the fans a bit more up for it, feeling a bit more positive around the place. Decent atmosphere, get behind the team, and maybe we can pull a result out of our arse and kind of see what happens from there. But mate, let's round this one out with a score prediction. I don't think we're gonna. I mean, what are your thoughts, mate? Because we're still trying to get to that 40-point mark. We're not quite there yet. A win takes us there. Are you confident we can get it?
See what happens. I'm just gonna say 2-0 Chelsea. I'll believe in the new manager bounce in it, but that's all that I've got.
Yeah, no, man. I'm hopeful that Bruno can galvanise the boys and guide us to a win. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win, but ultimately, as long as we get the win, that's all that matters. But in reality, I'm really not expecting too much to change, because how much can really change from Saturday night to Tuesday? Not really that much. It's still all Potter's ideas, because Salter's learnt from him. He was part of the backroom team, so I don't know how much is
Potter's ideas is.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Give everything, and Gallagher will come on at some point.
Yeah, now I'll be interested to see what his post-match comments are, whether he goes with that the boys gave everything line tomorrow. Let's wait and see. But yeah, seems like a good point to round out the episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. And we'll catch you in another episode soon.